You know what's worse than your team missing out on the superstar? Finding out the trade was this close to being done. And the Lakers, one of the biggest franchises ever, have a long list of almost moments that could have completely changed NBA history. Today, we're breaking down 10 trades that Lakers fans wish happened. Trades that were agreed to, discussed, or even handshake approved, but never made it across the finish line. Some of these would have changed championships, legacies, and maybe even who we call the GOAT. Let's start from the beginning. So let's rewind back to 1992. Charles Barkley's in Philly and he's miserable. The front office is a mess, the team isn't winning, and he's openly calling out the organization. At that point, he knows his time there is done. He wants out, and he wants to land on a real contender. On the Sixers side, they're looking at it like, we're not close to competing anyways. Barkley's still a superstar, but they're thinking about resetting the timeline, getting younger pieces, and starting over. Meanwhile, out in LA, the Lakers are in shock. Magic Johnson just retired because of his HIV announcement, and suddenly their entire identity is gone. They need a new face of the franchise, and Barkley, MVP level Barkley, is sitting there available. A Barkley-led Lakers team keeps them relevant, keeps them dangerous, and keeps Showtime alive in a different form. A three-team trade framework comes together. Barkley to the Lakers, James Worthy to Charlotte, Kendall Gill to Philly, and Barkley gets told it's done. He literally goes out and starts celebrating, telling people he's a Laker. And then, Philly backs out. Hours later, the Sixers just pull the plug. Cold feet, ownership pressure, whatever you want to call it. Barkley goes from I'm a Laker to never mind. He eventually gets moved to the Suns instead, wins the MVP, and takes Phoenix to the finals. The Lakers, on the other hand, slide into this weird in-between phase in the early 90s. No Magic, no Barkley, just a slow rebuild that eventually leads them to a kid named Kobe Bryant a few years later. Fast forward to 2004. The Shaq and Kobe relationship is completely cooked. They're beefing publicly, the team just lost in the finals, Phil Jackson's gone, and Shaq either wants a massive extension or a ticket out of LA. From the Lakers' perspective, they're looking at age, money, and drama. Shaq is still dominant, but he's getting older, and paying him long-term at max dollars is a huge commitment. So they make a decision. We're riding with Kobe for the future. Now here's where it gets spicy. Mark Cuban and the Dallas Mavericks get involved. Cuban's basically like, look, I'll trade anybody you want, except Dirk. Dirk Nowitzki is one of the untouchables. The idea is to put Shaq next to Dirk and just destroy the Western Conference. The Lakers are like, that's cute. But if Dirk's not in the deal, we're not doing it. They're not interested in flipping Shaq for a bunch of good players. They want a new franchise cornerstone. Cuban won't budge, the Lakers won't budge, and just like that, the Dallas option dies. Shaq ends up going to Miami instead, wins another ring with D Wade, and adds to his legacy there. The Lakers, they fall into a mid-2000s stretch where Kobe's dropping 81 points and dragging Smush Parker and them to relevance, but they're nowhere near a title yet. Now we're in 2007, the frustration's boiling over. Kobe's tired of losing in the first round, and Jason Kidd's over there in New Jersey not happy either. The Nets are aging, the finals runs are behind them, and he quietly starts looking for a way to get back in the championship picture. New Jersey's ready to pivot. Kidd is still really good, but the window with that core is closed, so they start listening to offers. The Lakers call. They're interested. For them, Kidd is the answer to multiple problems. They need a true floor general, someone to set Kobe up, run the offense, guard opposing point guards, and bring leadership. The Nets say, cool, give us Andrew Bynum and Lamar Odom. Bynum at the time is just 19 years old, he's a project big man. The front office loves his upside. Kobe, not so much. That's where that infamous leaked video comes from Kobe saying, ship his ass out. Despite that, the Lakers hold the line. They refuse to include Bynum in the deal for Kidd. They're betting on his future instead of going all in for a kid who's in his 30s. The deal never happens. Kidd eventually gets traded to Dallas and years later wins a championship there in 2011. The Lakers, as we mentioned earlier, are still stuck in that in-between zone, but the decision to keep Bynum's going to matter very soon. Around the same time, there's another star big man out there, Jermaine O'Neal in Indiana. He's dealing with injuries, the Pacers are falling apart after the Malice in the Palace era, and he wants a fresh start, preferably on a contender. Indiana looks at their situation and realizes they're not going anywhere with that core. O'Neal's expensive, his body's starting to break down, and it makes sense to at least see what the value is. The Lakers are again right in the middle of it. From their point of view, if they could put a healthy Jermaine O'Neal next to Kobe, That gives them a legit 20 and 10 interior presence. He can block shots, score in the post, and take pressure off Kobe offensively. Talks get real. There's a version of the trade floating around that involves Lamar Odom, Andrew Bynum, and salary filler going to Indiana. But the Lakers aren't willing to go that far. Giving up both Odom and Bynum in one move, that's their starting forward and their young center. It's too much of a risk, especially with Jermaine's injury history and a massive contract. Indiana won't back off their asking price, and LA won't add any extra pieces, so the trade just dies. O'Neal later gets moved to Toronto, but injuries keep him from ever being that same dominant all-star. And for the Lakers, like we mentioned earlier, they keep their core intact. Odom and Bynum both stay, and that ends up setting them up perfectly for another move. Now this is the one that hurts the most for a lot of people. Kevin Garnett in Minnesota is doing everything: defense, scoring, leadership, but every year it's the same story. First round exits, not enough help, eventually he's had enough. He quietly lets it be known he's open for a trade. Minnesota realizes they're stuck. KG's contract is huge, the roster's not good enough, and they're wasting his prime. They have to consider a rebuild. The Lakers step in again. Their pitch is simple: pair KG with Kobe and terrorize the league. There's a point where the owners actually have a handshake agreement. Andrew Bynum and Lamar Odom go to Minnesota, Kevin Garnett goes to LA. But the Wolves GM Kevin McHale becomes obsessed with another young big, Al Jefferson from Boston. On top of that, there's this unspoken thing that you just don't gift the Lakers another dynasty if you're a rival. Minnesota ultimately chooses Boston's package, KG goes to the Celtics instead. What happens? He anchors the Celtics defense, gives them that anything is possible energy, and in 2008 he wins a championship, beating the Lakers in the finals. For the Lakers, that loss stings, but it also lights a fire. Shortly after they trade for Pau Gasol, and suddenly we've got Lakers Celtics in the finals again. Now we get to one of the most infamous almost trades in league history. In 2011, right after the lockout, the Lakers are aging. Kobe's still elite, but the roster needs a full reset. Over in New Orleans, Chris Paul's had enough of fighting uphill battles. He wants out and he wants to compete for a championship. New Orleans knows he's not going to re-sign long term. They're in this weird spot where the league technically owns the team and they're just trying to get a good return before losing them or nothing. The Lakers see a perfect transition plan. CP3 can come in, take pressure off Kobe, run the offense, and carry the franchise into the next era. So they put together a 3-team deal. Chris Paul goes to the Lakers, Pau Gasol goes to Houston, Lamar Odom, Kevin Martin, Luis Scola, Goran Dragic, and add a pick to New Orleans. This isn't a rumor, the deal was literally agreed upon. And then, David Stern steps in. Acting as the owner of the league-run Hornets, he vetoes the trade. His explanation? Basketball reasons. Just like that, CP3 to LA dies. Paul is later traded to the Clippers and instead becomes the face of Lob City. For the Lakers, losing that deal has a massive ripple effect. They lose Odom's trust, chemistry gets weird, and they never fully reload around Kobe again. Instead of a CP3 Kobe era, we got the beginning of the Lakers slide into post-Kobe rebuild. Jumping ahead to 2017, Paul George is in Indiana and he tells the Pacers straight up, "I'm not resigning. I want to go to Los Angeles." From Indiana's perspective, that's rough, but at least they know they can either lose him for nothing or flip him for assets. The Lakers are in the middle of the young core experiment. Ingram, Lonzo, Randall, Clarkson. They're not winning yet, but they have pieces. George is a perfect accelerator. He's a two-way star in his prime and a Southern California kid who actually wants to be there. They put together an offer built around late first-round picks and one of their young guys, but they drew a line. They will not include Brandon Ingram. The Pacers look at that and they aren't impressed. On top of that, they already feel some type of way about the Lakers because there were tampering accusations floating around about George in LA. So instead of sending him where he wants to go, they ship him to OKC for Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis in a package that ends up going incredibly well. George spends a year in OKC, surprises everyone by re-signing, and then eventually forces another move, this time to the Clippers with Kawhi. And the Lakers, as we mentioned, they're still stuck in the middle. The young core is fun, but it's not winning yet, and that leads to the next big swing. Right after the Paul George saga, another star wants out, Kawhi Leonard. In San Antonio, his relationship with the organization collapses over injury management. He's unhappy, he doesn't want to trust their medical staff, and eventually he wants a fresh start. The Spurs are forced into a spot that never thought they'd be in. trading a finals MVP and a 2-time defensive player of the year, but they're not going to just send him anywhere. They want to start back, and they absolutely do not want to build a super team in their own conference. The Lakers, meanwhile, are in full recruiting mode. They believe that if they trade for Kawhi, LeBron will be more likely to pick the Lakers in free agency. A LeBron-Kawhi tandem in LA is terrifying for the rest of the league. LA has the assets: Ingram, Kuzma, Hart, picks. There are reports of huge offers being discussed, but the sense around the league is that the price for the Lakers is always higher. The Spurs keep the asking price sky high and show no real interest in picking up the phone when LA calls. Instead, they send Kawhi to Toronto for DeMar DeRozan and other pieces. Kawhi goes to the Raptors, wins a championship in 1 year, and then makes his way back to LA, but not to the Lakers, to the Clippers. For the Lakers, the plan shifts. They still got LeBron that summer, but the LeBron and Kawhi super team never happened. Now let's talk about the trade that almost didn't happen, but eventually did. In 2019, Anthony Davis tells the Pelicans he wants out and makes it clear the Lakers are high on his list. New Orleans knows they're going to lose him. They're not winning. His clock is ticking, and they need to restock the franchise. The Lakers view Davis as the guy. LeBron is already there. Adding AD gives them one of the best duos in the league instantly. So they push all their chips in. They offer Lonzo, Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, Josh Hart, Zubac, and picks, and they're even willing to take on the bad salary from the Pelicans. It's an insane offer. Everyone can see that. The Lakers are desperate to get the deal done at the deadline, but the Pelicans just keep raising the price. There are reports that they're asking for essentially the entire roster plus a crazy number of future picks. Magic Johnson eventually gets fed up and pulls out, calling the demands outrageous. Deadline passes, no deal. Davis finishes the year in New Orleans. The Lakers' young core knows they were all on the trade block and chemistry takes a hit. Then the summer hits, the Pelicans change GMs, they revisit the talks, and this time the deal gets done. AD becomes a Laker. And the year after that, LeBron and AD win the 2020 NBA championship. Alright, last one. In 2023, Kyrie Irving's in Brooklyn, and the relationship is pretty much broken. Contract issues, off-the-court drama, organizational tension, it's all there. Eventually he asks out. The Nets are over it. They know he's not committing long-term, and they don't want to walk the tightrope anymore. The Lakers are instantly interested. Reuniting LeBron and Kyrie, the duo that came back from 3-1 down in the finals, sounds like a cheat code. Kyrie's shot creating and shooting is exactly what this version of the Lakers is missing. LA puts together a serious offer. Russell Westbrook and their precious 2027-2029 first-round picks. Those are huge assets and they're willing to move them. But Brooklyn has two big issues. First, they want more. They reportedly asked for Westbrook, those two first, plus young guys like Austin Reeves and Max Christie, and pick swaps on top of it. That's the kind of package that basically empties their whole cupboard. Secondly, owner Joe Tsai doesn't want to send Kyrie where he wants to go. The last thing he wants is to reward Kyrie handing him to LeBron and the Lakers. So instead, the Nets accept a deal from Dallas where Kyrie goes to the Mavs to play with Luka. The Lakers pivot, reshuffle the roster with guys like D'Angelo Russell, Rui Hachimura, and Jared Vanderbilt, and those moves help them make a run to the Western Conference Finals. So after all that, which one of these will have changed NBA history the most? Would you rather have seen Kobe and Chris Paul, Kobe with Kevin Garnett, LeBron with Kawhi, or Charles Barkley rocking the purple and gold in the early 90s? Drop your picks in the comments. If you enjoyed the deep dive into the Lakers what ifs, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell so you don't miss the next one. I've got plenty more NBA alternate timelines on deck, and I'll catch you on the next one. Y'all be safe. Peace.